everybody, this is Kiru's show here, and whenever I last left off, Deku had turned Ida into a dog, and turned him back, along with the heroes versus villains. But I think we all know which is more important. Now, after that, let us cut to the USJ event. Everyone is on the bus, and they are waiting to leave, or they are on the bus on the way to the USJ. Now, while on the bus, people are talking, and they're actually asking Deku, essentially, what's his family like? Deku would say not really much, but the only thing is that his dad owns a store, and he usually practices his quirk there. It's actually the place he discovered his quirk, and where he's usually spends most of his time. Because essentially, he can use his quirk and save the money by not having to buy fresh produce every day by just rewinding it. Now, people are saying that that's a bit cheaty or something like that, but Deku would just explain that his family's store is usually tight on money sometimes, but essentially, a long time ago, before or around whenever he was younger, his dad got fired from his job and actually got to work by using the rest of the money he had left to open a store. Now, he was essentially able to get it off the ground, but it was a very tricky investment because he had to sacrifice some things, and it actually turned out very well. Now, people are talking about this, and this is whenever they would arrive at the USJ. People have asked Deku one more question, which was, what can't you do, or what can your other things can your quirk do? Now, Deku still hasn't figured this out. Now, 13 is talking about how essentially not all quirks are created equal, and if a quirk is mishandled or misused, it can be very villainous, which is when people would immediately just look at Deku. Now, Deku is essentially... This is whenever the villains would arrive. I don't know where I was going with Deku there. My bad, everyone. This is whenever the villains would arrive, and Deku would see this. Now, he's actually thinking, what do we do? This is not good. As I would immediately jump in. Deku and Bakugo look at each other, and right before they think about stepping in, a portal would immediately just open up, and Deku and Uraka, along with Froppy, are falling. Deku's following, he's trying to rewind himself, but he can't rewind falling, really. It's just not something that's going to happen. So, he's trying to rewind himself, but he notices that he's still falling, so he stops. Thinking, okay, I gotta write that down later. Because he tries gathering as much information on his own quirk as possible. Now, after this, Deku would see Uraka slowly floating throughout the air, as Deku would actually see her. This is whenever Deku would be caught by Sue, or he would start swimming to the boat when he has full cowling on at 30%. And as soon as he gets up to the boat, this is whenever Sue would actually see him. She'd get him onto the boat, and this is whenever she'd actually use her tongue to get a Chaco. Now, after that happens, Sue is talking about how this isn't very good, and they need to get off the boat. But it's not really... They're kind of surrounded by villains. They could use Ochako's quirk, but that solves them getting off the boat, but for getting down, that's a bit trickier. Now, after that would happen, this is when Uraka would quite simply say that she has air jets on her hero costume. Now, after that, Sue would actually be surprised, asking where they are, and she would just show them. And I realized I did not explain Deku's hero costume. Okay. Deku, he would want to call himself something like Mr. Rewind or Time Master or something like that. But his hero costume would basically be... Oh, crap. I can't think of a good hero costume. Hang on. I'll get back to that later. I will try and figure that out later. Okay. Now then. Everyone... Sue would actually be surprised hearing this from Ochako. Ochako would just show her that on her essential... Basically, her wristbands, the thing on her wrist, they actually can blow out air. But they take a minute to actually charge up the air. So she's essentially having her boots charge up the air, along with having the things on her hands, or the things on her wrist actually do that. As soon as they would give a little beep, Ochako would actually just tap on a Deku and tap on a Froppy. Now, as soon as that happens, she would immediately just start pushing these two as she's essentially holding these two throughout the air as she essentially starts using these. If you guys are confused, then this is basically like what astronauts use to help them move around in space. Now, after they would actually get back to shore, Deku would see Shigaraki, and whenever Shigaraki goes to attack him, this is whenever Deku would immediately just... He would bring out his hand, actually going to stop him, and he would actually just jump backwards. So as soon as he would have grabbed Froppy by the back of her shirt, along with Ochako, actually pulling those two back as he jumped backwards, which Shigaraki is impressed by. Deku's saying that he doesn't know what they're here for, but as the villain will cut him off saying what we're here for is to kill All Might. And what we plan on doing is using something that you don't know, can't even imagine. Deku would say he can imagine a lot, as Shigaraki's saying he doesn't think so. Now Deku would actually power up full Cowling to 30%, as he immediately begins running around trying to help Aizawa take down some villains. Karagiri would summon the Nomu, and Deku would have to face off with it. Now, Deku would actually power himself up, and he goes to fight the Nomu. The Nomu would send him flying with a punch, and as soon as Deku got sent flying, he would have felt that some things are broken, and he needs to essentially heal himself. So he would start rewinding, as he would hit a wall, basically interrupting his rewind. Now, he would actually heal himself and power up to about 100%. Now, as soon as he hits 100%, he just hears one thing in his head. He hears someone say help, which he's looking around and he can't see anyone. So he just thinks that he probably just heard someone and he needs to, or it's probably, he would just say that it's probably Ochako and Sue. So he would immediately just lead back into battle. As he does this, he would actually go and throw a punch as he would smash it in the Nomu's chest. As soon as that happened, Shigaraki would be saying that there's no way that Deku can actually fight against the Nomu, as Deku is actually fighting against the Nomu. Now, after that happens, Deku and the Nomu are fighting each other, and Shigaraki is watching as Deku throwing punches at it, and anytime the Nomu goes to punch him, Deku either jumps back or just tries moving out of the way. Now, after this happens, Deku's thinking of what he can do. They said that they created this monster, so that means that it's born, or how does it work? As he would try rewinding the Nomu. But after he does so, he just finds that he just creates, or he just pisses off the Nomu. Now, if you guys are wondering why Deku can't essentially turn it back into a human, the Nomu has been modified and has modified DNA. Deku's quirk doesn't know how to react to DNA like that, because it's already more primalistic. He wants to turn it into a mouse or a cat or something, but he's having trouble figuring out how to do so with his quirk. Anytime he thinks about it, he essentially could see that it might start happening, but as soon as that would happen, it's a process. It would take time. So he'd have to have all 5 fingers touching it for more than, let's say, at least 30 seconds, if not 25, which is harder to do already in a high tense intensity battle. Now, the reason I'm putting that up so high is so the USJ just isn't a flop, or just something to breeze through for Deku. Like in Sunshine Deku. That one was more challenging than make. Now, Deku is actually throwing his punches and fighting with the Nomu, as he starts trying to tap into 1 for more. As soon as he gets up to 1,000,000%, he's actually hearing someone cry out for help even louder, which he's still confused by. He's thinking that it might be some of the other students. So he would actually just throw as much power toward the Nomu as possible as these two are fighting. And as soon as his hand makes contact with the Nomu's, he immediately just powers through its shock absorption, actually ripping through its face, basically destroying its entire arm up to its face. Now, after this happens, Deku is actually having trouble, and he's actually healing himself, if not rewinding himself. But it's taking a minute. So he's actually holding onto his hand, his arm that he used, and he's rewinding it as much as he can. Now, as soon as that happens, he's actually huffing, he's puffing, he's tired, he's exhausted. He's trying to figure out who's saying something. Now then, afterwards, Deku is thinking that it may have just been someone calling for help or a previous successor. Because All Might did say that essentially the successors were in 1 for All, but he doesn't know if they're in there by choice now, which even makes him feel a bit more uncomfortable using it. But Deku would immediately hear, I am here, as Deku would see that All Might is here and everyone is cheering, but the Nomu gets back up again. Now, after this, Deku is thinking that he has one final try. He would tell Ochako and Froppy that you guys need to start running. Why? Just start running. As he would immediately cover the entire area and rewind. Now, as soon as he does so, he actually rewinds the entire USJ into a natural disaster. Now, what I mean by this is he's essentially covering the entire area to a point before. So there's earthquakes, there's tornadoes, there's lightning, there's anything you can think possible there. Deku's essentially just rewound the entire USJ back to a time where natural disasters were the daily thing. The entire area is being covered in tornadoes, tsunamis, you name it. Any point in time where there's been a natural disaster, it's all happening in the USJ. And as soon as this would happen, Froppy would have actually grabbed Deku, basically pulling him off the floor. They're trying to get out of there, as essentially now these are real natural disasters, which the pro heroes are trained for, and they would immediately just get the villains, get them all arrested and tied up. The Shigaraki and Karagiri would escape, and the students would be saved by the pros who are trained for this sort of situation. Now, this is going to be a bit more difficult. Deku would ask All Might one simple question after All Might was able to get them into privacy, or get Deku attended to by a recovery girl and have a talk privately. Now, Deku is asking All Might one question. All Might would look at Deku and Deku would ask All Might if the previous successors are trapped within One for All, which All Might would actually find weird. He's asking what All Might mean, or he's asking what Deku means. Deku's saying that he heard someone call out for help during the USJ. He wasn't sure if it was any of the students or what was going on, but he heard it twice. They sounded scared and trapped somewhere. The only thing I can think of was One for All. You said it was a sentient quirk, right? Well, yes, but all the users are gone, Midoriya. What's left of them is in One for All. Their emotions, their knowledge, everything you can possibly want to know. But what are you talking about? Well, it's just, you think that they're still there. That it's not just a part of their knowledge or anything like that, but it's just them, their actual spirits. All Might's even more confused as he would explain that essentially, no, but you might just be tired and exhausted. The fight was very intense and things seemed very stressful for you guys. So just give yourself some time and I'm sure you'll figure this out. Which Deku would do. He would pass out in the nurse's office. And he would be woken up in the middle of the night screaming as he would have felt something in his body. In his arms specific. Now, as soon as he would feel something, he would immediately jerk awake and actually be confused. Which is whenever he would look down at his hands trying to figure out what happened. Now, Deku's not sure how to feel because he thinks that he just experienced something he wasn't there for, if not something that shouldn't be possible. Now, for those of you who are already commenting, is this Eri reaching out to Deku? Yes, but yes. Anyways, basically what's happening is Eri's tapping into a power to... Okay, 1 year later, Eri, whenever we first meet her, or whenever this started happening to her, she's actually just... She's crying and she's trying to call out for people, well, for someone. But nothing is responding, or no one's responding. Now, she is actually talking to Deku. Or she's able to have a one-sided conversation. But she just thinks that no one is there. Deku is able to hear, but he's not able to respond. And he doesn't know what's going on. He just thinks this is One for All, and this is actually just Eri. Because she's able to... She doesn't train her quirk or know how to use her quirk, so... Let's say that this is a power Deku doesn't know he can use. And he probably won't learn how to use. Not yet. Now, that is where I'm going to be leaving things off of, guys. And before anyone comments, how is this possible? Essentially, Eri's quirk is looking for someone who might be able to help her. Or she's just trying to reach out. Since Deku also has the same quirk that has to do with time, these two are actually trying to reach out to each other to talk. That is what is actually going on. Now, I am going to be leaving this part off of here, guys, and people have asked me to make Eri Deku's brother, but I feel like if I do that, then I have to change up a lot more, well, the story way more than I already have set it down to be. And I kind of don't want to do that, but this way I can at least have Eri connect with Deku and actually somewhat talk to him. But Deku just doesn't know how to respond. Now, because of that, this won't happen very often for Deku, but he's able to feel things that he probably hasn't experienced before, which is basically what Eri's experiencing, which will actually play a big role later on in the series. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys later.